A very good evening and very warm welcome and Sukhihotu to the Buddhist Mahavihara's Dhammadana series. We are going live once again from our Facebook page here at the BME Facebook Live. And we're also going live at the Theravada Buddhist Council of Malaysia's Facebook page as well. This evening we have a new speaker with us, and this speaker is a Bhikkhuni, and she's from Australia. She's based in Adelaide, and let me now introduce you to our this speaker for this evening, which is Bhikkhuni Dr. Nirodha from Adelaide in Australia. Good evening, Bhikkhuni.
Tevang Saranai.
Let me introduce Bhikkhuni to those of you who are unfamiliar with her because she's here on the first time on our Dhammadana series. Now, Venerable Kadavatta Nirodha Bhikkhuni was born in Kadavatta, Sri Lanka. Venerable Nirodha completed her formal education at the Devi Balika Mahavidyalaya after completing her bachelor's degree, which specialized in computer science at the University of Colombo. She worked as an assistant lecturer at the University of Moratuwa in Sri Lanka. In 2000, Venerable Nirodha Bhikkhuni went to Christchurch, New Zealand to pursue her postgraduate studies. There she completed both her MSc and a PhD in computer science at the University of Canterbury in New Zealand. And after living in New Zealand for 13 years, Venerable Bhikkhuni moved to Adelaide in South Australia to work at the University of Adelaide as a lecturer. Venerable Nirodha Bhikkhuni has been, however, studying Buddhist philosophy for about 10 years as a layperson. Then in June 2019, she decided to embark on a journey as a Samaneri and entered the Buddha Sasana under the tutelage of Venerable Gampaha Paramita Bhikkhuni and Venerable Ratnapura Shanta Thero. Bhikkhuni Dr. Nirodha is now the spiritual advisor at Nirodha Meditation Center in Adelaide, South Australia. She teaches Dhamma to both adults and children on a regular basis, and Venerable Bhikkhuni also conducts a Dhamma school in English for children who live in regional areas and do not have the opportunity to attend Dhamma sessions in person on a regular basis. So, without much ado, now I'd like to invite Bhikkhuni to start this evening's Dhamma sharing, and it's entitled "The Message of the Buddha." Bhikkhuni.
Tevang Saranai. Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gachandu Devata Saddhammang Muni Rajasa Sunantu Sabha Mokkadam Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Bhadanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Bhadanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Bhadanta Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sabba papassa akaranang kusalassa upasampada sacitta pariyodapanang etang buddhana sasanam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. With permission of the Mahasangha, may I speak about Dhamma. Dear devotees, and practitioners of the Dhamma. So today we are gathered due to the organization of the Buddhist Mahavihara Malaysia for another Dhamma sharing. So before I embark on an explanation of the Gatha, which is the main topic of today's Dhamma talk, I would like to explain a few important aspects of listening to Dhamma. Now, if I ask you, why do you listen to Dhamma? And all of you will reply, that's an easy question to answer. We listen to Dhamma because we want to learn Dhamma, which is true. But Lord Buddha has explained that listening to Dhamma Deshana, which is called Dhamma Savana in Pali, is a pathway to Nibbana. Lord Buddha has explained that Dhamma Deshana, that is conducting Dhamma, like these Dhamma talks, giving Dhamma talks, Dhamma Deshana, Dhamma Savana, listening to Dhamma, Dhamma Sadgayana, chanting the Dhamma, contemplating of Dhamma, and meditation are all 5 different pathways to Nibbana. Now some of you may have already known this. And you might think, oh, I already know this fact. That's great. Some of you might go, I learned something new today. But if you just learn this as a bit of knowledge, as some knowledge, that's not enough. We have to ask the question, how is it possible, or what did Lord Buddha mean when Dhamma Savana, listening to Dhamma as a pathway to Nibbana? We have to know why it was explained as a path to Nibbana. Okay? Because Dhamma is explained well in the beginning, well in the middle, and well in the end. This has also been explained. So there is a way to listen to Dhamma so that we can develop our prajna, our wisdom, which will help us to end all suffering. What is the way? So Lord Buddha explained that there are 4 parts to listening to Dhamma, which is the first one is called Attikatva Dhamman Sunati. That means when you listen to Dhamma Deshana, you need to contemplate about how valuable Dhamma is. Dhamma is the only way that we can end this samsaric journey, end all suffering. Okay? And how rare it is. The preciousness of Dhamma, and how fortunate you are to be able to listen to Dhamma. And so when you understand the how rare Dhamma is and how precious Dhamma is, you will develop Shraddha. You will see the importance. So you will give the highest priority that you can in your life to listen to and learn Dhamma. You will realize that we have not been able to have this supreme chance, very, very gifted, very valuable opportunity in our samsaric journey before. And this might be our only chance to listen to Dhamma and to realize Dhamma. So all of us have to get the most out of this opportunity. So when you contemplate like that, you will develop Shraddha, and you will have keenness to listen to Dhamma. Okay, that is what it means by Atthikattva Dhammasanati. You develop keenness by developing, contemplating about these facts about Dhamma. Then the second one is called Manasikattva Dhammasanati. That means just like uh, how bits of drops of water gets collected in a pot, drop by drop, and even if it is drop by drop, finally the pot will be full. Just like that, every little um, fact or piece of information, Dhamma information, you will collect keenly with an avid interest. You don't put anything away, and you uh, get it into inside your mind. Okay, you contemplate about the Dhamma. You try to understand the different layers of Dhamma. You try to understand the deep meanings of Dhamma. Okay, then you will understand Dhamma deeper and deeper. So that's called Manasikattva Dhammasanati. Then the third one is Sabban Chetaso Samannaharitva Dhammasanati. That means you would not put any Dhamma facts or pieces of information away, just like you are making a garland, right? By attaching one flower at a time. So you attach one flower, then another flower, and so on. You will make a nice garland. Just like that, you will understand the links. Why did the speaker say this as the first one? Why then here the Bhikkhuni or the monk went on to the other one? So you understand the underlying message, the links, the theme of the Dhamma talk. Okay, so you understand where you are and where the full path. You might not have gone there, achieved the higher mental status, but you understand the path. You understand the links between the flow of the message. That is called Sabban Chetaso Samannaharitva Dhammasanati. Finally, when you understand how important Dhamma is, how valuable Dhamma is, and you try to get it into your mind and understand the hidden messages, understand the links from where you are, how what is the path to go through to end the suffering. When you understand all those things, finally, Ohita Sote Dhammasanati, you listen to Dhamma as if you are meditating. You don't look anywhere, up or down, left or right. You sit, your body is still, your mind is still, and you are a keen listener. You take everything in. Your mind doesn't stray away at all. When you listen to Dhamma like this, you will be able to understand the Dhamma and realize the Four Noble Truths essential to end all this suffering. So I just wanted to explain this, take a few minutes and explain this, because this will help you to not only to gain knowledge about how to listen to Dhamma, but try to see whether you are listening to Dhamma like this. Are there any shortcomings in your practice of listening to Dhamma? If, how can I correct this? That is why we listen to Dhamma. We want to develop ourselves. We want to improve our practices. Okay? So now I hope you understood how to improve your practice about listening to Dhamma. Now let us move on to what the topic of the theme of the talk, message of the Lord Buddha. Okay. Now we all of us are familiar with what we call Buddha Sasana. We say Buddha Sasana. We are very fortunate to be alive when the Buddha Sasana is alive, when the Dhamma is alive. Okay? What is Buddha Sasana? Buddha Sasana means the message of the Buddha, message of the Supreme Buddha. Now, the Gatha Sabba Papa Sakaranam Kusalasya Upasampada Sachitta Pariyodapanam Etam Buddhana Sasana. That Gatha tells you or explains the core message of all the Buddhas. Okay, it says this is the advice of all the Buddhas. Now we know the meaning, we have heard this gatha so many times. We know that it means don't do any evil, don't do anything wrong, and then be good, do the only the good things, uh, clean your mind, and that is the advice of all the Buddhas, which is one way of interpreting this gatha. But this gatha has a very deep meaning. That is what I wanted to talk about today. Right? So if you take the first line of that gatha, the first line says Sabba Papa Sakaram. Be away or don't do any evil. Be away, get rid of all evil. Now some of you might think that that is about not doing any unwholesome actions. That is also again one interpretation. But one cannot eradicate all evil just by being away from the 10 unwholesome actions. We have to dig deeper than that. This has a deeper meaning than that. Okay, let's see what that means. Lord Buddha explains that there is a root cause for all evil. There's a root cause for all the unwholesome actions, words, and thoughts that happen. And the root cause is avijja and bhavatanha. I will explain what these are. Avijja and bhavatanha are the root causes of all the unwholesome actions, words, and thoughts that we perform moment by moment. Okay. So, what is avijja and how does this relate to other aspects, other kilesa like lobha, dosa, moha? Okay. Now, our perception is that all of us were born into an existing world and we are we are interacting with an existing world, and one day we will die, leaving this world behind. But Lord Buddha explained that the world actually becomes alive, or the world will come into fruition through the senses. Even though we think that the world exists before we come and we will leave it when we die, Lord Buddha says the world is becomes alive, is born sort of through the senses. The world comes into existence through the senses. Now, in our world, we have all sorts of people, like mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, husbands, wives, and so on, friends, colleagues, monks, nuns, and so on. Right? That is what our world consists of. But Lord Buddha explains that there is an outside world. However, that outside world consists of objects, which we call rupas. All these rupas are a combination is formed through a combination of four basic elements: Patavi, Apo, Tejo, and Vayu. If you're not familiar with those words, it's the uh, earth, fire, earth, water, fire, and air. Okay, so anything, even if you call this body or the table or the laptop, everything has different combinations, different percentages of Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu. And it is it has come together and formed different shapes in the space. Okay? Even though we say in our world we have all these people like mother, father, daughter, son, and so on, Lord Buddha says, yes, in the world you get all the objects, all the rupas are Satra Mahadhatu, consists of Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu. But they have different shapes. Now let me just explain a little bit here. Now if you take a lump of clay, which is basically Patavi, okay, but of course it has Apo. Here one thing to remember is Apo is not really water. That means that the stickiness, how that stickiness in liquids can keep the Patavi together. The best example is when you make roti or you know parati or those things, or pizza, how you put, when you have flour, how you put water and then it sticks together. That shows that water has that stickiness that can keep the patavi together. Okay, so you have patavi and you have this lump of clay and you mold it like in a pottery class. You mold it, you can make a pot, and you can say, oh, that's a nice pot. Now can you see that it was made up of clay? No, your mind is now going, oh, that's a pot, that's a beautiful pot. Okay, now the patavi, the aspect of patavi is not very prominent. We see the pot. And then let's say you take that, you convert it to lump of clay again. Now the clay is more prominent. You make a rabbit. Same clay, you haven't changed anything. You make a rabbit. Now you say, oh, what a beautiful rabbit. Well done. Okay? Now you have an attachment to the rabbit. You don't see the lump of clay. Okay? And again, if you convert it to the lump of clay and you make a child. Now you say, oh, a very nice child. Now what happened? The same lump of clay, the same pottery, you had different shapes. And with every shape, you have an attachment. You form an attachment. When you do that, you don't see the pattern. You see the shape. Now, if I ask you, is the shape the rabbit? You would say no. If I ask, is the shape the child? You would say no. But what we can see is only the shape. Okay, let me explain that a bit further. This is very important. When you have something like an object in front of you, like in front of your eyes, we would not be able to see that object without a light source. You need to have light in order to see the object. Object means rupa, satra mahadhatu. Okay? Even if you have light and you have the rupa, right? What happens? You have from the light source, it reflects it. You get a light source on the object, and it reflects a certain part. Okay, and then you get an image on your retina. Okay. Now, we said that the object is made from this Patavi, Apu, Tejo, Vayu. But what you get is only the shape or the reflected beam of light that will form an image on the retina. Okay, that means you're not getting any information about whether this person, whether that object is a person or mother or daughter or son, nothing like that. Just a being. We say that is called Upada Rupa in Dhamma. That means you get the shape. Why? Because our eyes are not powerful enough to see what is actually in the outside world. Now we all know the bodies that we call ours have cells in them. They're made up of, other smaller ones and electrons, protons, and all these things we have learned. But can we see any of them without a microscope? No, we can't. So are we seeing what is actually there in the outside world? No. We are only seeing the upadharupa or the shape. In fact, we are only seeing the light that is reflected off from the rupa or the object. So when you get that light beam, it forms an image on the retina. There was no knowledge of whether that was a person or whether it was your daughter, son, or mother, father, husband, wife, nothing like that. Just a beam of light. And then it creates an image on the retina. Even that image depends on the quality of your eye or the lens. What do I mean by that? That image that you are getting, that is formed on your retina, is formed on the basis of the quality of your lens. That means if you are colorblind, the image you are getting is different from what I am getting because I don't have colorblind. If I have cataract, then I have what the image I am getting is different from someone else's. So that means we cannot see what is in the actual world. We will only be able to see what is given or what is formed by the eye, by the lens in the eye. Even then, that won't stay long. It creates the image, then the light beam just has done its job and the image doesn't stay there, it just vanishes. Okay? And then what happens? Then the nerve system is stimulated and you get a signal that is called sanya. I'm explaining it using the science because it's easier to understand that way. So you're getting a signal and it goes to the visual cortex and you go, oh, that's my friend. That's how you think that you see the external world. What happens? You got an image which is dependent on the quality of your lens. Nothing, no knowledge came from the outside when you look at when you think you saw an object, and then it ceases to exist. The image is produced and then it ceases to exist, and then you get the sanya, the signal going through. That's an electrical signal, and you identify that as your friend or your colleague. Did we get we only got a light beam from the outside world. Now the issue is we understand, okay, that is our friend, but that is something to do within our mind, something to do with the mind formation. But what do? We always go and connect it to the object. We think we saw our friend, but we didn't get any notion of friend from outside. We only got an electronic beam, light beam from the outside. Now you might go, how can we live like that? The issue is, as long as you try to see things, try to look outward, your mind accepts the fact that all these things, the mother, father, and all these things live in the outside world. You cannot escape from the lobha, dosa, or the moha that people live in the outside world exists, that an outside world exists. That perception you cannot escape. But when you go through the process, you will be able to understand that we are the ones, or our mind is the one who forms all these concepts, who forms the basis to have this tanha to the outside world. Bhava tanha means that. Bhava means outside world. Okay? So we give values, we form the we, as in the mind forms the values, and the mind not only forms values, but it also attaches it to the outside world. Now we don't see the Satra Mahadhatu, we don't see the reality. What we see is a brother, sister, monk, nun, and so on. Now, as a consequence of this, what happens? Now those Satra Mahadhatu, we don't see the Satra Mahadhatu, just like the lump of clay I was talking about. Now these things are valuable things for us. Now they are valuable. If you see something as, if your mind can see, your panya can see the reality, then you won't have this suffering. But every time you attach a value to a Satra Mahadhatu, the way during this process, then what happens is you are forming the ground to suffer. Why? Because even if you have attached a value to the Satra Mahadhatu, that will evolve, that will break, that will cease to exist. It will present its true nature. What is the nature? Impermanent. Now what happens? You have this mental formation that you cannot permanently attach to that rupa, nama rupa. Right? Because of that inability, you will suffer when the object breaks, when the Satra Mahadhatu ceases to exist. We don't understand that we are the ones who form the values, who gave the values, who assigned values to different Satra Mahadhatu, different shapes. We haven't seen, we cannot see the Satra Mahadhatu through the naked eye. We can only see the shapes. Okay? But because of our avidya, because we don't know about this process, we think we can see what is in the what we have formed here from the outside. Now this is called Sakkaya Ditti. Sakkaya means what you have done inside, that is the mental formation. Ditti means you are using that to see the outside world, like perspective. Okay, Sakkaya, what is in the inside, what we have formed in the inside. Ditti means you are seeing the outside world through that value system. Let me give you another example now. All of us, I'm sure, have gone to a cinema to watch a film, to enjoy a movie. I'm sure you have all seen that beam of light coming from the projector towards the screen. There were no actors, actresses, or the cars, botanical gardens came in that light beam. It was just a line, beam of light. When it comes and projects, when it gets projected on the screen, you will see different shapes, and now you have different. You will identify. Your mind will identify. Oh, that's that beautiful actress. That is that handsome actor, right? And now you will form a story. All you got was a set of shapes on the screen, but you can see cars, beautiful gardens, flowers, and all these things. Now you will have Loba, Dosa, and Moha, and you are entangled in the based on the story that you have compiled yourself. Right? Now you might have anger towards the enemy and empathy towards the couple who are fighting for their love and so on. Okay? But if you want to go and hug a beautiful actress that you can see on the screen, or you want to shake hands with a handsome with the handsome actor that you can see on the screen, if you try to do that, what happens? You go when you try to do that, you will be able to touch the screen. But you come a little bit away from the screen, you can see all this wonderful world on the screen. So can you see that we make, or the mind makes all these formations? And even though you look outside like this, you will never you're not seeing the outside world, because the formation, everything to do with the seeing is done at the same. The same way that you are seeing the picture, the film, is how you see the world. You look at, let's say, your son or daughter, and you go, oh, you come here, my daughter, and you're going to hug her. What you're doing is just like the screen, you are touching your son's or daughter's hand, but this is Patavi. The son's or daughter's hand is also Patavi. Doesn't know what it's touching. Patavi is just Patavi. Okay, this is just a set of muscles and bones. It doesn't know anything. Same on the other side. When this touches this Patavi touches the other part, then you have the Kaya Vinyana, right? The mind comes into existence, and the mind will tell you, if you have stored it, mind will tell you, oh, you are touching your daughter's hand, your son's hand. But if you cannot recognize because you have not stored that, then you have to ask someone. Like, how you haven't met your friend for a long time, now you can't remember the name, and you look at that person, even though you can't see that way, you keep looking and you keep searching your database. The eye is very innocent. Eye is a camera, cannot do anything other than just getting the image, just capturing the image. Actually, it helps to get the image onto the retina. That's all. All the other things are done within the mind. The problem is we are trying to project that mental formation to the outside world because we don't know about this process. So that is called avijja. Because of avijja, we have attachments to the outside world. That is called bhavatanha. You don't understand the process. Because of that, you have avijja and bhavatanha. Because of avijja and bhavatanha, and because the mind accepts accept the fact that an outside world exists, you will be having, or there will be lobha, dosa, and moha. Sometimes you might go, I'm a very neutral person. I don't have any issues or any attachments, or I don't have any anger towards anyone. I have upekha, equanimity, right? But you still have moha because you still accept the fact. The mind still accepts the fact that person is outside. The person that you are displaying a neutral feeling is still outside. So then you have still moha. So you will have avijja, bhava, tanha. Because of that, you have lobha, dosa, moha. And because of the way that you are seeing the world, you will see the world as nitya, means permanent, subha, atma, right? And like the four viparyasas, okay? Instead of you are saying anitya, dukkha, anatma, you will see them as permanent, nitya, subha, sukha, and atma. Okay? Because you think that the outside world is permanent. Okay? You don't understand the mental formation. So these 9 words, what are the 9 words? Avijja, bhavatanha, lobha, dosa, moha, the four vipalasas, which are nitya, subha, sukha, atma. These 9 words have been explained in the Dhamma as the 9 words of akusala, 9 words that explain akusala. So if you understand the 9 words and you remember, that is great. But that is knowledge. What is more important is to understand the fact that this is how we are in the samsaric journey. How our samsaric journey is formed and kept on forming, kept on unfolding. Right? In other words, this explains the first 2 noble truths. Okay? What happens, the suffering and the reason for suffering. Okay? So actually, Sabba Papa Sakarana, the first line actually explains how we get into the samsaric journey. How are we going along this samsaric journey? The first 2 noble truths. Then the second line, which says Kusalassa Upasampada, explains the third and the fourth noble truths. What does that mean? That means if you want to get out of the samsara, what is the process? The process is samatha and vipassana. Samatha means you're trying to still your mind, calm your mind. There are 40 meditation techniques that Lord Buddha has explained in the Tripitaka. So you use one of the techniques based on your character type to make sure that your mind is still. And then you do vipassana. So samatha, vipassana. Then when you do samatha and vipassana, you will be leading, or that practice will lead to alobha, advesha, amoha. Alobha, adosa, amoha. And now instead of the vipalasas, because of this practice, you will see the world as Anitya, Dukkha, Anatma, Asubha. Anitya, Dukkha, Anatma, Asubha. So there's also 9 words. What are the 9 words? Samatha, Vipassana. That practice will lead to Alobha, Adosa, Amoha, and that will help us to understand the world as it is, which is Anitya, Dukkha, Anatma, Asubha. Now these 9 words explain the Kusala, Kusalasya Upasampada. Also, this explains the third and the fourth noble truths. So this Gatha explains that when you understand Dukkha and Dukkha Samudaya, that is, those are the first 2 noble truths, and try to develop the practice through Samatha Vipassana, what is the result? You will be able to purify your mind. So that is the essence of the Gatha. This actually explains how the 4 noble truths, the realization of the 4 noble truths, help us to eradicate all suffering. So, what you have to do, even though we don't have a lot of time, we want to understand. We all know, as we all know, that attachment is the cause of all suffering. But it is not possible to eradicate all attachment without eradicating avijja. Whenever you have avijja, you will always have tanha. So you cannot actually get rid of attachment. The solution is to get rid of avijja. How do we get rid of avijja? First method is to listen to Dhamma. Understand this process. Go to a Kalyana Mitra. Ask Kalyana Mitra to explain Dhamma, understand Dhamma, contemplate Dhamma. And why do we do Kayagata Sati, the 32 body part contemplation? That is to prove to your mind, challenge your mind, even though the mind says, oh, Amma is in outside, Tata is outside, and all that. No, when you go that way, what you have only only Satra Mahadhatu. So 32 body parts, that contemplation of 32 body parts help us to understand what really exists in the outside world, which is different objects which are all made out of Satra Mahadhatu, and they are formed in the space with different shapes. That's all. So the more and more the mind realizes that, then it understands that all these formations are done in your mind. It's like a magic trick. This is why Lord Buddha says, Maya upamacha vijnana. Mind is like a magician. So this is like a magic trick that has been formed by the mind. So the more you understand, the more you try to penetrate and understand deeply what actually exists outside, then you understand that then your mind will accept the fact that all the formations are in this side. So that then we have to. There is another. We have to then start help the mind to realize what's going on. First, you have to start by realizing what is outside. That is just a glimpse of what the practice should be. But mainly what I wanted to you to understand is Sakkaya Ditthi is what happens is when the mind formation is being projected to the outside world. That is why we find that the outside world exists. And every time something changes in the outside world, the Satara Mahadhatu objects change, they dissolve, they cease to exist, we suffer. Right? And in the deathbed, what happens is, let's say you suddenly, in your last moment, you suddenly remember your son or daughter. Now, if you are not at the level of Sotapanna, you don't know anything about this. You go, oh, I wish I can see my daughter or son. You either have Lobha or Dosa, or you still have Moha because you accept the fact that the daughter exists in the outside world. Then you have that desire or you have that anger. Based on that, now because you want to see, you want to interact with that object, not the object, the son or the daughter, but you can't be in this body. This body ceases to exist, and because of your desire to interact with the outside world, you will be born again. It's not technically okay to say you will be born again, but there will be another pratisandhi, rebirth. Okay, so that's how we go into the next life, and so on and so on. The only way to stop this cycle is to understand how the mind is formed, how the mind forms the values, and how the values are getting projected to the outside world. So I hope you understand this to a certain extent, what Sakkaya Ditthi means. There were some other examples that I wanted to discuss, but there's very little time left, so I would leave it for the time being. But I do hope that this Dhamma talk will help you to form the basis to understand what Sakkaya Ditthi is and to understand in a simple way the practice and how to get rid of Sakkaya Ditthi. So, thank you, everyone, Saranai, and I will leave the time now for questions.
Thank you, Bhikkhuni. That was a very interesting Dhamma sharing from you. I think you have actually explained it quite simply in terms of Sakkaya Ditthi and also why we need to understand why we are listening to the Dhamma at the start. I think that was a really useful tip that we learned today. I think because the time is a little early in Malaysia, there are not many people who have tuned in.
Okay.
There are no questions I see from the audience at the moment. Yeah, there are no questions. So if there are no questions, can we then move to the other Anumodana, please?
Yes, okay. Okay. So, as we know, Dhamma Dana is the highest form of Dana, right? This is the only way that you can provide an opportunity for someone to end samsara journey. All the other danas that we do will always be for this. If you give food or other things that will help the person with this life. But the Dhammadana is the only one that will help uh, and that will enable the opportunity to end this samsaric journey. So it is the highest form of dana. So let us all share the merits gained by this Dhammadana by all of us with all the deities, and let all the deities be able to understand Dhamma, find eternal happiness, and in this very long samsaric journey soon. Please say sadhu and share the merits. And let's also share the merits with everyone who we have come across in this very long samsaric journey and who has departed our lives in this life and in the previous lives, and let all of them be happy and well wherever they are. Let all these mothers, fathers, grandparents, teachers, sons, daughters, wives, husbands, everyone, let all of them be able to share these merits and rejoice in these merits, and hopefully be able to realize the Four Noble Truths and end all suffering in this Gautama Buddha Sasana itself. Please say sadhu and share the merits. And finally, let us share the merits with all the families who have been generous to contribute towards this Dhammadana, as well as the committee and all the coordinators of the Buddhist Mahavihara of Malaysia, and especially to Mr. Tilak, who has been looking after the Dhammadana series for all his endeavors, and also for the Mahasangha who resides in the Buddhist Mahavihara Malaysia. So let all the devotees, all the sponsors, the committee members, and everyone in the everyone associated with the Buddhist Mahavihara Malaysia, as well as everyone in this world, be able to rejoice with the merits gained by all of us today, and let all of them be able to find inner guidance, inner peace, and let all of us be able to understand and contemplate Dhamma, which will enable us to realize the Four Noble Truths and attain Nibbana in this life itself. Sukhi Hotu. Abhivadana Silisa Nichang Vadha Pachayano Chattaro Dhamma Vatanti Ayuvanno Sukham Balam Ayurarogya Sampatti Sakha Sampatti Mevacha Ato Nibbana Sampatti Iminate Samichati. May the blessings of Triple Gem be with you always.
Thank you, Bhikkhuni Dr. Nirodha. Thank you for conducting the Anumodana. So now on behalf of the Committee of Management and the monks of the Buddhist Mahavihara, let me take this opportunity to thank you for graciously accepting our invitation to be with us this evening. I know it's pretty late now in Adelaide, um, but still, you still took the trouble to be with us and share the Dhamma with us. I'm sure those of us who were listening to Bhikkhuni would have appreciated and absorbed a lot of the messages that she had expounded to us. And we look forward to another sharing, hopefully soon, Bhikkhuni. If you have time, we could do a second sharing with you, probably next month or the month after. And also to our sponsors this evening, thank you so much for your kind sponsorship to keep this program going. We have done this now for almost 2 years continuously since the pandemic has started. And also to all our viewers who are listening in, I hope you had a very what's the word, fruitful and enlightening experience here with Bhikkhuni. And with that, we've come to the end of this evening's Dhamma sharing. So have a pleasant evening and Sukhiho to one and all.